today. Sorry, I leave to my co-chairman.
Thank you, Hugo. Now our two missing speakers are expected to arrive here.
But we have already one.
We have already one, but the others, Patrick and the president of Fincantieri, are arriving around 10:45. So the suggestion is that, having heard interesting and sometimes a bit controversial presentations, we now open the floor for questions. Now, interesting, and I said sometimes controversial. For instance, if you talk about measuring CO2, I was pleased that Andrea said we are not going for direct emission measuring, because for me the basic thing is the bunker book. How much do you bunker? And that fits in with an energy saving culture which many companies, I know from Grimaldi, have today. But the reporting as such, the presentation made by Andrea was talking about an EU regulation. For me, reporting of CO2 or bunker consumption should be global. IMO should be done, I guess, by flag states and port state control. Andrea mentioned the 2015 date where electronic reporting will be done. I doubt whether all EU member states will be ready to have a single window to receive electronic reporting by 2015. So a lot of controversial issues. I was very interested in the presentation of Umberto D'Amato about 15% or more energy saving. And then, having heard Francesco about guarantees and liability and what have you, I was hoping he would say something about the performance of scrubbers. Where is the guarantee there? Who is liable there if it doesn't work? Anyway, a lot of interesting statements made, sometimes controversial. So I would open the floor for questions or comments, maybe starting with the panel. Some comments, questions from the panel?
Well, just to comment on this bunker savings, slow steaming, and eco ships, I think it's very dangerous to generalize and talk about 15% or 20% or 50%. It depends extremely much on which vessel segment we are talking about and what vessel size, etc. It depends on the speed more than anything else. So the first point I'd like to make to everybody owning and operating ships is slow down. It's good for the market, it's good for the environment, and it doesn't cost any investment to reduce the emissions fairly dramatically. And I would encourage everybody before embarking on buying eco ships to do very thorough homework on what the consumption difference is on various speeds for the segment that you're looking at. Again, it varies by segment. I represent Pacific Basin, a Hong Kong listed handy-size bulker owner and operator. We are the world's largest handy-size operator with 225 ships on the water. We own about a third, but increasingly so, and charter in the rest. We are an operator, so we use all the ships ourselves. And I totally agree with Mr. Grimaldi's comments to encourage bankers and investors to back owners and operators and not only speculators, but where there is cargo backing of the company and the strategy. But we pay the fuel bills on all our 225 ships, and so we care a lot about how high those fuel bills are, and we know a lot about handy-size bulkers and handy-max bulkers consumption. And for us, we're steaming at about 10 knots, 10 or 10 and a half knots, And at that speed, the difference between a good second-hand ship and a new so-called eco ship is about 1 ton, 1 or 1.5 ton. So we have bought primarily second-hand ships rather than new buildings. It's pure mathematics. But in this segment, it's still possible to buy good second-hand ships, because that fuel difference varies not only on the speed, but also which ship are you comparing with. Are you comparing with a bad second-hand ship, or are you comparing with a good second-hand ship? The handy-size bulkers is a very Japanese-focused segment. The Japanese shipyards have specialized in building very good handy-size bulkers. So you can buy a 32,000 deadweight Hakodate or Kanda or Oshima or one of the major Japanese shipyard second-hand ships, and the fuel difference compared to a new design at 10 knots is about 1 ton. And you can do the math on that. It doesn't really pay. So the eco ship strategy is different for each segment. It's more difficult for us to find good second-hand ships in the Handy Max segment. A lot of the existing available ships to buy in the Handy Max segment, or Supramax or Ultramax as it's often called, are not the best quality built Chinese ships with not very good consumption. So there you're sometimes driven towards ordering a new ship rather than buying a second hand. But I would also encourage you to do the homework on the eco strategy, because the eco ship strategy is a high-speed strategy to a very large degree. Our strategy is not a high-speed strategy. We assume that bunker prices will remain fairly high, and therefore slow steaming is there to stay, and we care more about having a low cost at a low market at a high bunker price than the reverse. So the eco ship strategy really banks on ships speeding up, maybe from 10 knots to the design speed of 14 knots. And as you can calculate, that would add an enormous amount of capacity to the market, which would again drive market rates down again. So those are some of the comments on eco ships.
Thank you, Mats. You rightly said that you cannot generalize. Each sector is different, and listening to you sailing at 10 knots, I think Manuel Grimaldi with his fleet cannot sail at 10 knots. Manuel?
Although I think that the situation is extremely different from Handymax and important big fast ro-ro ships, especially if they are RoPax and they are carrying passengers. When we are talking about vessels where the passengers have always hurry, you can see that sometimes absurd speeds are also used in transportation of passengers. But I think we can generalize that slow steaming makes sense. Generally speaking, is one of the most important systems also to address the supply and demand problem. So slow steaming has been used for container vessels. Slow steaming has been used for Pax ferry, and slow steaming has been used for bulk sector, and it has worked. Then we might also endorse other things that we have heard before, such as that the biggest of all the economies, it is the economy of scale of the ship in transportation. That creates, of course, the biggest efficiency of all. the biggest efficient. But of course there are constraints. There are ports where the draft is a constraint, and you need to have a small ships. So small ships will always have trades. There are ports in the island, in small islands, where the small ships have to. And this will apply both to the handymax, but wherever is possible, the economy of scale of a bigger ship, that creates the biggest energy efficiency. We see this with the huge container vessels. We see this, for instance, even in the multi-purpose vessel. We know by sure that our new multi-purpose Ro-Ro vessel of ACL, which will be the biggest vessel in the world of that type, they will have a consumption which is 50% of the consumption of the today's ships per container transported. So that is a huge improvement, of course, in the efficiency of the ships. And I am sure that most of this is coming from the biggest size of the vessel, then of course a better design of the keel, then the use of silicone paint, better propellers. So there is a combination of various different systems to achieve. One of the complicated things is that many ships were built when the fuel was costing not so much. So when you decide to slow steam a vessel, and this vessel was built to travel at 30 knots, and instead you are traveling at 20 knots, then you have problems. For instance, most probably you should change the propellers, because the propellers built for a vessel going at 30 knots are totally different, and you might have an improvement of 20%. Not this 20% saving, it is not because we have invented something new, but only because we are using a propeller that is adequate for the 20 knots and not one that is adequate for the 30 knots. Again, some of the improvement that we have with silicone paint is due to the fact that the today environmental rules are forbidding the lead and other metals, therefore, for environmental issue. So the deterioration of that paint is so quick that soon the vessel will have problems if you put a silicone type of paint that will last about 5 years. So in my view, and from my experience, I have silicone paint 50 ships out of the 100 that I have. The improvement is 5% because of the silicone paint, and another 5% is due because of the non-deterioration, quick deterioration of the paintwork, yes, of the coat. So, but altogether, this is important, it's 10%. And also, many of the vessels which today we are using, and that used to be vessels that when the price of the fuel was relatively low, and when the vessels were relatively expensive before the crisis, of course we were running with most of the ships. Now we are going slow, and we have to change perhaps even the propellers. And of course, vessels which had 4 engines are operating with 2 engines. So the other 2 engines are used as spare on board. And of course, these changes are due because the world has changed. The fuel became very expensive, and the vessels are becoming, of course, cheaper in a market that is not good. But I think another very important endorsement with an example I can make of my group. When Ugo was saying that the cost of fuel might be 3 times, then he said 4, 5, then he said 10, but I think he was quite shy in saying that it might be 10 times. This is the case of the Grimaldi Group. my cost of financing over 100 ships worth 7-8 billion euro is 88 million euro. The cost of the fuel for my group is 800 million euro. So it's 10 times, although I have 3 very good engineers working very hard in energy saving. So most probably, and I have the biggest of all the vessel of this type. So I have definitely the biggest economy of scale applied. So let's say, I think I have 80% of the biggest ro-ro in the world. All the vessels of above 3,000 and 4,000 linear meters mainly are owned by my group. So there, of course, you have the economy of scale and you have low consumption. But we are talking not only of 10 times the cost of the financement, but what it is extremely important, it is 3 times more than the cost of the 10,000 people working in the group. So we have 10,000 people. Whilst we were obsessed when I was young about productivity, I don't think that the productivity of the people working is the biggest. Today, energy saving, at least in my group, is by far the most important, although of course productivity remains important. And then we come even to the acquisition of the vessel. The 7 billion euro value of the fleet, amortized in 20, 22 years, how much will be? This equals to 300 million, 250, the end, 350 million, depending on how you amortize your own fleet. But still, this is less than half. So even the importance of buying the ships is less than energy saving. And of course, definitely on some of our trajects, although we have reduced the speed, we cannot reduce it so much because otherwise the people who are shipping with us would lose interest. We shouldn't forget that Ro-Ro is connected to the just-in-time, and this is why it's preferred to the container. Why to travel by trailer and not by container? Because you need the quickest delivery. And even quicker with Pax ferries where you drive in and drive out. And even more when you are talking about passengers. I don't know why, but we are all obsessed about time. I find something very, very strange because I enjoy to take a normal ship often to go to Capri or and then there are these hydrofoils, which I don't feel so comfortable inside, like on a nice vessel on the deck, particularly during spring and I prefer to have a longer journey, which is 1 hour. Those vessels cost half of it. But you see, even the domestic help working in the house in Capri and in Ischia, they're all traveling by hydrofoil. Nobody's traveling on a nice ferry. So people are obsessed with time. And therefore you have to find a commercial type of compromise between the desired speed and the expense.
Thank you. It's very interesting to see that these projects are going into a concrete stage, and of course they are. We were mentioning before about really the potential of LNG and the fact that LNG can be, provided that a lot of questions are solved, can be the fuel of the future for many ships, especially for ships that are operating in predefined routes. I think before leaving the floor to comments, I would like to ask to the chairman of Fincantieri, Mr. Petrone, who I think has been updated by Francesco e Lauro about his presentation, what is his point and if he has any comments about the proposal of Francesco about giving a contractual, let's say, strength to the performances of the ship and what will be his position about the potential liquidated damages if they can be reconsidered in today's market, considering the extreme importance that performances of ship have in the future of such units. So, Mr. Petroni, if you would like to say something about this.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me apologize for arriving late, courtesy of the railway company. So I missed all the points that were made until a few minutes ago. You will then excuse me if my comments are slightly off the mark. The second premise, I'm sorry for saying that, is that I'm not a lawyer, nor am I an engineer. What I can see as president of Fincantieri, as a newcomer president of Fincantieri, is that all these regulatory contractual innovations, plus all the regulatory innovations concerning environment, are an essential point in the change of image that our industry needs in the public opinion. I think we have to be aware that from this point of view, the situation at this moment is rather critical. I'm not referring specifically to any specific incident, but the fact is that in the overall public opinion, the shipping industry in this moment needs a revamping of its image. And these clauses will probably help. I'm talking about the technological aspects, will probably help in facilitating this evolution. On the context in which these proposals are made, you are aware that the overall situation concerning the shipping industry, I'm talking about mainly the cruise line industry, is rather critical at the moment. Yes, the pie is growing. Yes, the perspective for growth in the market are relatively good, but there is no doubt that there is an element of overcapacity, and there is an element of contraction of the revenue yields that companies can count on. You know that the prices of a cruise per passenger remains roughly in the range of $200. So I'm saying all this because I think it is important to place the comments that we have heard so far in the context of a rather complicated overall situation. Now, as far as Fincantieri is concerned, we consider these technological, contractual, and regulatory innovations as an opportunity for growth, as well as an opportunity for creating a new competitive edge for our company. We think that if we are helped by the regulators in Europe and in our own country, these additional regulations will allow us to set a standard that will be more difficult to reach for competitors in low-cost countries. So Fincantieri is extremely open to all these proposals, provided they are compatible with the existing market conditions. This is the comment I would like to make for the moment, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to thank you very much. Sorry for perhaps commenting slightly off the mark, as I was saying, but I missed all the presentations so far. Thank you.
How can we meet the 2015 date is, as Patrick suggested, the solution time being that ship owners just take the compliant fuel, distillate or diesel at high price, and charge the customer, with a result that you may have a modal shift back to the road, from sea to road, the opposite of what everybody wanted. So the floor is open on this, for a long time, controversial point, perhaps. Manuel Grimaldi wishes to react to it because he is, with many of his ships, sailing in the SECAS or ECAS, whatever you call it.
think the very big question mark is, have we in shipping delivered, and are we improving on, for instance, the sulfur and on other? I am sure that the improvement that have been done, and perhaps this improvement was not made by most for environmental reasons, but for economical reasons. As I explained, when the biggest of your cost is, of course, the fuel cost, we have to deliver. And our sector has been improving more than any other sector. And we have delivered in a terrific way, because we became much aware of the problem. And of course, we have delivered also on environmental issues. If we also study the SECA zones, in these zones, only a few years ago, we were consuming fuel which had a sulfur content of about 4%. Since few years, we are using only fuel which has only 1% content. That alone has reduced to 25%. In other words, the sulfur which we have emitted in the air is 1/4 of the fuel of the sulfur which we were emitting in the air only a few years ago. After this huge improvement, has ever been made by someone a study of the quality of the air, for instance, in the Baltic? Doesn't seem to me that. Therefore, I think that the regulators took an exaggerated and perhaps orthodox, perhaps communist type of approach. Because to go from now 1 to 0.1 without having the tools to address these issues in such an exaggerated way, I think is putting the whole of shipping into an enormous difficulty. But not only, most probably, if we have to use gas oil that cost about $300 more per ton, if not 4 or 5, this will send back a lot of transportation back on road, which of course will create more pollution. Even more, because the gas oil will not be produced in Europe, there will be more transportation and more emission just to carry this gas oil to the places where we have to bunker. Some time ago also, talking to the refineries, we have asked if they could have produced the 0.5, and we were told that this was impossible. You can only consume gas oil. This is definitely not true. Today, refineries are producing 0.3, and already we have been contacted by refineries who want to sell the 0.1 coming from heavy fuel. This brings to a level of uncertainty, volatility, in a period of crisis, which is not tolerable from the industry point of view. Every time that regulation should be made, we should have an answer, and we should also make a costing of what this regulation will be and what will be the outcome of such regulation. Today, as was clearly told by Alphonse. Gas. What will be the price of gas? We understand, and we have heard already today, that the price of gas is, for the same type of power and to fuel the same type of horsepower, is 150 in the United States. But it is only perhaps 20% less. Why? Because of the shale gas in the United States. Shale gas can be produced at a very cheap, but again, the environmentalists are against the production of shale gas in Europe. So it is very difficult. Also, normally entrepreneurs should calculate before making decisions. We are not in a position to calculate. We don't know what the price of gas will be. We are not even in a position to fuel gas because gas is not available. In the ports that we are calling, gas is not available. So scrubbers, the cost of the scrubber of today and also the weight of these scrubbers and the systems, if they have to be closed, if they have to be open, the technology that it is used. We are in primitive stage. Like in the old days when we had a very heavy, big mobile phone, and today we have a small iPhone 4 that can do. I'm sure that this will be the case, perhaps even in scrubbers, if we will work on the scrubber. But perhaps scrubbers are not necessary, because why should you scrub on board? Why you should reduce your dead weight? Why you should jeopardize on some ships the stability of the ships by putting weight on the weather deck or close to the funnels? So this is an extremely complicated issue, but most probably it will be available. Today they are saying it will be because through this environment, a lot of people are trying to make the business of the century. Because of course for refineries, if they can sell the heavy fuel at the price of nearly the price of the gas oil, the offer that today they are making is $100 less than the price of the gas oil. I can tell you, yes, 0.1. Of heavy fuel, 0.1. Yeah. But of course, if more producers will produce, I think the cost is the opposite. The cost might be $100 more than the heavy fuel. The 1% in the beginning was costing over $100 more than the 4%. Today, you pay $20, $30 more only, because many refineries are producing the 1%. And sometimes the 1% in the north, the northern part of Europe where it is used, is cheaper than the 4% in the Mediterranean, or the 1.5 that is used in the Mediterranean. So here also we have a problem of trying to understand what is going to happen. But the changes are going to be extremes, because also most of the gas oil which today is produced, it is consumed by the automotive. But many people are believing that very soon the automotive will be electrical. And today the technology is available. Tesla is producing cars with huge autonomy of 600-700 kilometers, with a battery that will last 8 years, and with a car that is performing like a Maserati or like a Jaguar. And this battery will last about 7 years, will be sold for $10,000, and very soon I think will be produced by many other automotive producers, and will make the social cost of the electricity is zero because it's produced during the night, whilst most of the electricity cannot be accumulated during the night. And in any case, the cost for filling up a Tesla will be about 4 or 5 euro during the night, instead of the 200 euro which you would spend for, in many countries for buying the gas oil for the propulsion of that car. So there will be huge changes in the years to come. And the regulators made the law without giving sufficient time to develop the technology. If I would have been the regulator, I would have given much more time before regulating and sponsor the new systems in order to have for the community a system available. They should have sponsored the people who would use or who would scrub, for instance. And the first scrubber, we would have passed very quickly from a first to a second to a third to a fourth to a fifth generation of scrubber. Like we have with iPhone. Every 6 months we are obsessed, we are changing the telephones and we get a much better technology. Or we should have given the time to the refineries to address the issue. But I understand that the refineries in Europe are passing through the worst time in their history. So they don't have sufficient funds to develop and to work on developing new systems and to scrap. So I am afraid that when we ask where we are going, we do not have, unfortunately, sufficient input on what will be the price of the gas oil, what will be the price of the 0.1, who is going to produce, will the scrubber address the problem, what will be the price of gas, are living, and I think that in this economy, you are not allowed to make a mistake. So most probably, whilst we have to do something and experiment different decisions, for most of our ships we have to choose the wait and see, because we don't know, and it is, if the price of the gas will be the price of the gas that you pay in the United States, in Europe, then of course gas is the answer, at least for short sea shipping. There is no question about it. But of course it has to be available, the gas. If the price of gas oil will be substantially reduced, why not the gas oil? So today, unfortunately, we do not have the parameters that are the prerequisite to make the accounting and to decide what is the best solution. So we are gambling. We are not entrepreneurs making the right calculation. We are gambling. We are going in a casino and we are just choosing one of the solutions. And I'm not sure that who is gambling. So in my group, I will do and I will try, whilst we are reducing the consumption of whatever fuel, we are also working on using different systems and try to address in different ways in order to be prepared once that the parameter will be available to make the right choice.
Thank you, Manuel. I think we have heard. I think what the speakers, and in particular what Manuel has put in front of the audience, is a very difficult situation where opportunities are present, but where it is extremely difficult to pick up the right one. So we would be very much interested to listen now from you that have followed with attention, I think, with great attention, all the presentations and all the speeches and comments, to hear from you what is your position and what you have about what you have heard up to now? There is a complete silence. Maybe it was so. we are okay. I know that we are competing with coffee, but it's a
Neapolitan coffee, eh?
sorry.
Neapolitan coffee.
Neapolitan coffee.
Very strong.
It's even worse what you have said now because it's even more interesting for the audience. Do you have any opinion about what has been said? I think in particular we have touched a few points. One is the use for, of course we are all in agreement that efficiency of vessels is of paramount importance, and this is a way forward, and there is no doubt. But what is your opinion about, for example, the use of LNG? Valeria, we have Valeria Novella here who is studying very deeply LNG with a group of young ship owners, but also now with a committee that has been established, and we know something as Rina about this committee. Valeria, what is your position? What do you think? We will speak afterwards also. But what is your position about the use of LNG? Do you think that this is something really viable and that is going to happen sooner or later, or is something that is in the air and we stay there until we do not know what will be the real environment?
Thank you, Ugo. As you know, and as Mr. Grimaldi knows, we had some arguments on this matter sometimes. So I have to believe in LNG in the future because we have been in Norway, as you know, with the Confitarma Young Shipowners Group, and we have seen a perfect world using LNG. Of course, there are a lot of difference between Norway and Italy because Norway has LNG in this territory, and they have a good system, a good public administration with good rules, real rules, laws for using LNG, and a lot of support to the ship owners and to the industry, generally speaking, for using LNG as a new for the consumptions, for the reducing consumption. In Italy, the situation is completely different. We don't still have laws and for this new consumption system. We don't have logistics systems, but 2020 is tomorrow. 2015 is tomorrow, is now. 2020 is tomorrow. As you already know, there is a proposal in European Commission with the aim to build logistics infrastructure for all the ports, European ports of TNT, the TNT. We have to see. We have to wait and to decide within 2014 which ports. Because TNT, all the ports of TNT is too much maybe, but we have to decide which ports have strategy to build the infrastructure for LNG deposit and for using LNG. But the answer is yes, I believe we have to study everything related to LNG. Of course, if marine diesel oil will reduce the cost, which it will be better. Then go to the shipyards and build the new ships and spend a lot of money for a fitting or for new ship, for new engine, for the use of LNG. But we have to wait for this decision of the reduce of the price of marine diesel oil or for using a new oil as LNG. So we have to forward on the two different ways and to see, to wait. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, faced with all those uncertainties, actually the price of LNG will also be influenced by the fact that in Germany the nuclear stations are changing over to gas, so it will increase the price. There are so many uncertainties, and as we heard many times, 2015 is today or yesterday or very soon tomorrow. Now, the Commission has established this ESSF forum to look at all those problems, and in that forum there will be the Commission, there will be industry, all sectors, not only shipping but also equipment manufacturers, shipbuilders and what have you, ship owners of course, and member states. And it are the member states of IMO, including the EU member states, that have decided this 0.1% in 2015 without impact assessment. So I have a question to Patrick, because I haven't followed the recent developments now that this ESSF has been formally established. How will the industry face the participants, and in particular the member states, with the dilemma that the industry is in today, not knowing what to do? Patrick?
Well, the decision for the ESSF was made was last week, I think, or the week before. It hasn't started yet. The way this is going to work, but this is not just looking at the 2015 period, it looks longer term. And there will be also a number of technical groups there, one dealing with LNG, another one with scrubbers and finance and innovation. But I think what we should do as industry all across the board is, when this forum starts, is to make a very, very clear statement as to what all these different challenges are, both on technical level, on the regulatory level, and on financial level. I think we have to make it clear, speaking with one voice as industry, the different segments in the industry, that there is a serious problem with 2015. The LNG solution, of course, is more a long-term solution, and picking up what the representative of the young ship owners said, there is also a proposal there from the European Commission indeed to make sure that all the major ports in Europe, the 10T ports, are equipped with bunkering infrastructure. But there is also a bit of a problem with that, because it is a kind of a blind measure to say every port needs to have this by 2020, even if maybe there is no market in that particular port. So I think we need to also make sure that whatever measures are done, and it's positive that funding is going to be made available for this, that it's done on a market-based way, and not just by saying blindly every port needs to have infrastructure. It has to be proportional to what the market is in particular regions of Europe. So that is a little side comment on the LNG issue. But for the ESSF, I think there are great expectations, but on the other hand, I think we need to be very realistic as well. That certainly for 2015, unless we come with very, let's say, courageous decisions on possible, exemptions and things like that, and on money for conversion and promoting the early adopters, let's say, I'm afraid the ESSF could be just a forum and with very little concrete result. Which is why this joint statement from industry, very public statement when this starts, I think is crucial.
No, just translating and how this works out for us in real life, being a shipping company, deciding what to do, what to buy. Totally agree with Mr. Grimaldi and many others here about the uncertainty, and that the oil price, the fuel price, the gas price is the million-dollar question. And the new regulations coming with a global sulfur cap in 2020 is almost here today. So what that leads us to do, again in our segment, leads to preferring to buy a second-hand ship, because we get our money back in 5-6 years. And it's a lot easier to overview 5-6 years than to overview 25 years. Right? You order a ship today, it will deliver 2016. It's designed to consume heavy fuel oil. Is it going to do that for 25 years, starting 2016? I'm not sure. So again, it's a very difficult time to invest in ships, and there's new technology out there, but the fuel price is the million-dollar question, and we just don't know. And again, the answer for us is to slow down and look to find and do things on existing ships. You can do a lot by propellers, by fins, by coating, and that's how we primarily handle it. We order some new ships as well, but that's due to bigger size. So a new handy size is 37,000, not 32. That's why we're ordering new ships, not because of fuel saving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mats. I think time is now for coffee, and therefore we want to, on behalf of my co-chairman and myself, I would like to thank all the participants, speakers, panelists. I think it was a very interesting and informative session, and now we are going to experiment a joint venture between Neapolitan coffee and North European finance, because coffee is offered by Wärtsilä, and we are very grateful for this to them. Thank you to everybody.
And using Matt's words, now you can slow down and relax, but only for 15 minutes. Thank you.